What's up, boys? It is Commissioner Brandon. It's time for the week 2 recap and week 3 commissioner picks. Pretty good week last week as far as the pick outcomes, although I was slightly disappointed. I went 3-1, but I was really hoping for that commissioner curse on Kyle. Eve, I don't know what it is, man. If I pick you, you always lose. If I don't, you still lose. So I'm just gonna have to go with my gut going forward. I tried to pick against you, and it didn't seem to work this week. So we'll see. But not giving up hope on the commissioner curses. It did seem to work out well with Sergey taking that loss to John last week. I like seeing that as Sergey's pick owner. So let's just jump right in here. I'm going to do the rundown of last week's matchups. Just anything that kind of stands out to me. Tim did a great job yesterday or the day before with kind of the themes for the overall league. I'll try to break it down a little bit um, more individually and kind of look at maybe some individual players and just things, I hear might be seeing from teams or anything like that. Um, so let's get started. First one I'm going to look at, let's just start off with one of the biggest blowouts, my matchup. So Bills Mafia versus Brady's Third Dynasty. No surprises here. I would say for my team, scoring 85 points is obviously pretty embarrassing, but I think there were a lot of positives that came out of this week. A lot of positives that I'm actually pretty pumped about. I don't really care about my starter quarterbacks at this point, Baker and Daniel Jones. They're kind of whatevers to me. If they turn out, that's great. If not, that's fine too. Obviously, I'm very running back weak at the moment. Don't really care about that. Although I would like to see Kenneth Walker get that share of those touches here pretty quick. The things I obviously focused on going in at the draft were my wide receivers, and I think there were a lot of positives that have come out in the last couple weeks. Number one, just right off the bat, Jahan Dotson. Whether or not he's going to be touchdown dependent this season, I'm not too concerned about. I'm fine with some of those lower weeks because I think moving forward, obviously, this is not my year to compete. Next year might not even be my year to compete. I just need him to show that he has the talent to stay in this league, to potentially push to be an wide receiver one at some point in his career. I think I said it last week. I'm not sure that that's going to be when he's tied to Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz playing out of his mind. But like Tim said, I don't think that's sustainable. But I like to see Dotson getting open. I like to see him getting targeted in the red zone in crunch time. And he's done that now in back-to-back weeks. So already for me, Dotson's a win. I feel happy with what I'm seeing. I think everything is translated from his college film into the pros. Getting him in the second round, I mean, that's awesome. So Bateman, I don't think there's really any surprise with Bateman. I won't spend too much time on him. He's looking like he's going to be more of that like burner kind of thing. He's not, turning into a target hog, which might be a little disappointing, but he's getting his, and I think it'll just continue to get better as he continues to cook with Lamar. The only other two people I want to point out, obviously Garrett Wilson, who Tim touched on. I won't go too much into that, but man, hopefully that's his breakout and we just sky's the limit with him. I mean, he has all the talent in the world. I also don't know that he's in that Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase ceiling sort of tier. But I think he can have those sorts of games. I think with him, it's just going to be consistency. He's in a different sort of situation, just given that he's probably tied to Zach Wilson for a while. So if Zach Wilson doesn't figure it out, we're obviously going to have some issues there. But I think talent reigns supreme, and it looks like he's, again, one of those ones that's translating very well. Finally, Tua. Could not be more happy with what I'm seeing with Tua. I don't care if it's that, he has two of the best wide receivers in the league. I don't care if it's just that, anybody could throw wide open. He's showing confidence, which I think is huge with him. And coming off of his injury, I think the last couple of years, 3 or whatever it was since his college injury, that's the one thing he's really lacked is that confidence to kind of move around in the pocket and to just chuck it. The guy went 36 of 50. Throwing 50 times for Tua is pretty unheard of. 469, 6 touchdowns, 2 INTs, only 1 carry for a yard. But, watching him in the pocket, I think it's night and day between so far this season and the last few years. Now he's got Buffalo next. I'm starting him, obviously. I'll probably start him the rest of the year. But I would say expectations are low going into next week. However, if he does have a good week, I'm excited to see what Tua's value is looking like following that week. So that was that was a long breakdown of my team. Obviously, I'm a little more passionate about it. Sorry about that. Looking at Brady's third dynasty, 159.56 points. It's going to get you the win, I would say, most weeks, barring a fluke. And he did that with his quarterbacks combining for 20 points. Like, you have Tom Brady, Russell Wilson, who don't seem to be able to figure it out yet, and Ryan's still putting up 160. Dalvin Cook only had 5.6. I mean, this speaks to the strength of his team. We talked about it ad nauseum for the last 2 years. Ryan has a deep team that really doesn't have any holes. We're seeing, some of these questions about the quarterbacks. If Russ continues to struggle, we do have some juggernauts this year in this league with different teams. So that could be an area that's a challenge. But if you're able to get Tyreek Hill putting up 36 and a half, Aaron Jones putting up 30, Mark Andrews 21, like T. Higgins 16, he's going to be fine. And you can offset some of those quarterback challenges. I do see, Carson Wentz on his bench, Jared Goff on his bench. It looks like Jared Goff is currently in line to start. That's always nerve-wracking. In my experience, you never know what you're going to get with Jared Goff. I feel like anytime you start Jared Goff, he sucks. And when he's on your bench, he seems to do better. So maybe you'll break that little curse there. But this is, again, just a very, very deep team. Clyde Edwards-Helaire seems to be the 1A in that backfield, which is great, hopefully, for his value. I know he's on the trade block, so hopefully if Ryan's looking to move him, he can get something good for him there. And then Amari Cooper seemed to kind of have his breakout game in Cleveland. So, yeah, I mean, Ryan, Jalen Waddle. I always forget Jalen Waddle just sitting on the bench with 34.6 points. So it's a wealth a wealth of riches. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Ryan's going to continue to get to plug and play. And I think, if we were playing best ball, I think Ryan would probably be unbeatable just given this depth. But it's always going to be tough for him to set his lineup, which is never really the case with these really good teams. So great week for Ryan overall. Yeah. All right, next matchup I'll look at. I mean, no one else was really blown out. We'll go to Trust the Process, first 4 putt. So Tim takes the win here. I don't think that outcome is a surprise. I think what the surprise was the fact that Travis was in this matchup pretty deep into the weekend. And I believe there was even a point where Travis was projected to win this matchup. And I don't think it was just sleeper being weird. I truly think Travis was in command of this matchup for a while. Breaking it down, I mean, obviously Tim will always most likely have the advantage at quarterback, given whether or not Kyler decides to show up that week. But the upside is there. Joe Burrow still trying to figure it out for Travis, and I'm sure this is not the best case scenario for him, whether or not he's trying to build around Joe Burrow or get his value up to sell him high. Can't be too thrilled with how he and the Bengals have looked so far. Same kind of goes for Aaron Rodgers. I'm sure Aaron Rodgers is not a part of Travis's long-term plan, but he's not exactly showing even quarterback 2 numbers at this point, barely quarterback 2 numbers at this point. So trade value is also not there. Other managers choosing to go with Jared Goff in their lineup. It just things like that. So it was just a weird matchup. So some of Tim's guys, that broke out big last. DeAndre Swift had a kind of mediocre week for him at 15 points. Jonathan Taylor only 6.8. Like that's bad for Jonathan Taylor. Justin Jefferson kind of a very quiet week, really locked down by Darius Slay this week. So that'll be something to keep an eye on with your matchups against Philly. Darius Slay looks legit. CeeDee Lamb sort of figuring it out with Cooper Rush. We'll see how that turns out. And then Kyle Pitts. I mean, like Tim alluded to, I'm not sure that you can continue to start Kyle Pitts at this point. He's just not showing the rapport up there in Atlanta with Mariota. And I think with Mariota willing to run more, I think it's Kyle Pitts is not having the ability to get downfield and body the players like he's used to. So overall, I mean, Tim takes the win. Tim mentioned it. Drake London had a really good breakout game. Watching rookies is really fun. And even now watching second year players, I mean, Javonte Williams is still trying to figure out that whole rotation there. But yeah, just looking at Tim, Tim's not the deepest team. Definitely not the deepest team, but he does have still some good guys on his bench. Brees Hall sitting on his bench, like Tim said, he probably won't ever have to start him. So again, it's the name of the game with Tim's team, the way he's gone so top heavy, that you have studs up there. But if any of these studs get hurt, all that Tim really has to fill in at this point are like rookies or some lower level names. So that could be an issue down the road. And then looking at Travis, I mean, getting the loss, that always is kind of goal number one, right? Just continuing the tank, but also trying to establish guys that can build some value. I think, I know Travis is very high on Tony Pollard. That was a great game for him. Miles Sanders, very slowly figuring it out. Big Mike Williams, depending on, Travis's plan, that could be one that a contender really wants to pay up for. So there's a lot of talent on this team. Travis is, again, from my perspective, one of the most interesting teams to track at this point, just given that we're on the same sort of path. I don't know if we're on the same timeline, but we have similar paths. And, Travis is definitely stocking up on some lottery tickets, trying to find some guys that might break out, whether it's for value or whether it's for future, just having them on their team in the future. Either way, it's fun to watch. I think Travis is probably just biding his time, getting closer to the trade deadline, hoping some of these guys blow up a little bit more, waiting for some injuries to happen. It's the same thing I'm doing, although I'm way more depleted than Travis. So there's some really good trade chips out here, and it'll be interesting to see what Travis chooses to do with them. Okay, let's look at Full Jerry versus Mr. Ambassador. This was probably one of the most competitive of the week. I don't think it was, it was one of the ones for playoff positioning that was most important. So, Mr. Ambassador trying to go 2-0, Full Jerry trying not to fall to 0-2. Pretty pivotal for John to get the win here, and he did, which, again, I'm happy about, just given I own Sergey's pick. But, yeah, I think I've talked about it all along. My hope is that we see John in the playoffs. I need Eve in the playoffs. I need someone else to fall out. I'm not sure where that's going to come from. But anyways, I digress. Let's break this down a little bit. Actually, pretty even quarterback matchup, just given that we had the injury of Trey Lance and the Kirk Cousins, shit game, which is – not surprising. Never start Kirk Cousins on a Sunday or a Monday night. He just sucks. It's inevitable he's going to blow. So Justin Herbert, a pretty pedestrian game by his standards, but I don't think you can complain too much. The guy gutted it out and finished the game. So that's that. Jalen Hurts looking like a stud. I mean, I have to admit, I was one of the bigger Jalen Hurts haters. Just given that he's never looked like a quarterback to me until this year. I mean, he looks like he made the leap, and it's not at the expense of his legs. But he definitely looks more comfortable in the pocket. He looks more comfortable airing it out. It also helps when you have A.J. Brown down there to just throw it up to. So Jalen Hurts is legit. I don't see any reason why he can't keep this going. I don't know about overall QB1, but top 4 is not surprising to me. I don't think that's much of a stretch. Looking back at John's team, losing Trey Lance, It obviously hurts short term for John, but at the same time, John said it himself. Trey Lance was one that is going to need time to develop. He started less than like 27 games between college and the pros. So he was going to need time to develop anyways. So as far as short-term fantasy production, I'm not sure this loss is that huge for John, just given that he can now place Trevor Lawrence, who already has an extra year and a whole lot more starts under his belt. Can throw Trevor out there and probably get some more consistent production. Trey Lance would likely have been a roller coaster this year of ceilings and floors. I think Trevor Lawrence is probably going to settle in to be more consistent and get you closer 18 to 22 pretty much every week. And if that's the case, I think it actually benefits John, just given the overall makeup of his team. Um, yeah, I mean, looking at these matchups, Najee kind of a pedestrian game for him. Cordy didn't have a great game after that trade, so I'm wondering if Eve got the sell high there. Atlanta's just a hard team to figure out right now. So we'll see if John continues to stick with him. Amon-Ra St. Brown, I'm not going to speak too much about it any more than Tim did, but I don't know where it came from. I like to think that I'm halfway decent at like looking at college tape and doing all that. I don't see it. He looks like a completely different player. He's very opportunistic. He puts himself in good positions and takes advantage of it. And I think he's got a quarterback in Goff right now that St. Brown is really good with those mid-range routes and some of the yak. And I think that's kind of Goff's strength too. So it's a good pairing at this point for him. And then Dalton Schultz, I mean, putting up almost a goose egg. I'm not sure about this injury. They haven't said much. Hopefully he'll play this week for John, whether or not he plays him. And then Christian Kirk, I mean, he's supposed to be the number one. Those are number one numbers. So hopefully that continues for John. Now looking at Sergey, I know this was a letdown week for Sergey overall. Pretty much all of his guys let him down. This lineup did not perform close to what we would expect from them, only getting 111 points, and 33 of those came from Jalen Hurts. So everyone's down. I'm not going to like beat a dead horse here, but Mixon, Dylan, Lazard, all these guys, Ayuk, Zeke, like Kareem Hunt, everyone under 10 points. So I find the Zeke thing extra concerning. I know Sergey's not, in love with Zeke, but you obviously want production to either trade or just to make that flex look a little better, but 5.4 points in your flex is just not going to get it done, especially when it's Zeke. So he's got James Robinson on his bench who looks rejuvenated, looks like he's the lead guy. I expect to see him more. He benched DJ Moore. I don't know what's going on with DJ Moore. I think just that chemistry with Baker isn't there, but that should break out at some point. And then a lot of injuries for Sergey. I mean, it's a decent team, I think, on a good week. So right now it's weird. Again, Tim mentioned the redraft thing and like the comparisons between redraft and dynasty, but I think we're seeing a crossroads right now, even in redraft. Some of these running backs that we've been able to rely on for 8 years, 7 years, they're falling off, and they're all kind of falling off at the same time. And it also just overall, the NFL feels like it's going away from the running back position. Teams are much more willing to have like 3 or even 4 running backs that they use. So it makes it hard to value these guys. And when you have a team that is running back heavy, it's going to be hard. You're going to have a lot of these floor weeks. It's starting to feel like, whereas before running backs seem to be a little bit safer. So we'll just see how this shapes up for Sergey. I think he'll have. It's going to kind of be the highs and the lows with this team, I would assume. All right, and then finally, another big matchup: Moncton Meerkats and Cup to Canada. I know Eve is disappointed with that 0-2 start. There shouldn't be any panic here. This is still a really good team. Although you lose one. You lose now. The margin of error is much smaller. But if any team can overcome that, it's this one. And then Kyle, no surprise to Kyle. I know he was calling this from the beginning, and I don't think it's really a surprise to anyone. The surprise is going to be whether or not these guys can stay healthy. If they can stay healthy, I mean, this is probably the best team in our league, in my opinion. So that's, again, the storyline. We'll kind of beat that one to death every week, but that is the theme. I mean, stay healthy and you're on your way. Just breaking it down. Lamar carrying the team here completely, outscoring both other quarterbacks, helping to overcome the 1.8 points from Matt Ryan. I kind of mentioned this when we were talking about Ryan's team, how that QB2 position is valued and how it works out. Some teams don't care so much, and if you get 40 from Lamar every week, it really doesn't matter. But I think we saw last year that it can be important. I think Eve dealt with that quite a bit, just that QB2 issues. I know John did a few times last year as well. So it'll be interesting to see how Kyle deals with that, or if he's fine with what he's got. We'll just have to keep an eye on that. Mahomes, not a great statistical game. Facing a very difficult Chargers defense, probably one of the best in the league. So no huge surprise there. We'll just have to keep an eye on him. Stafford, not looking the same. I don't know if it's age. I don't know if it's the Odell thing, not having that second wide receiver. He's definitely still figuring it out with Allen Robinson, although better this week. So we'll, again, have to see what's going on there. Let's see. So for Eve, I think obviously Nick Chubb blowing up. That was good to see. I know Tim talked a little bit about some of these older guys just across the board here. Derrick Henry, McCaffrey, Eckler, all just not looking dominant. The Bills completely shut down Derrick Henry. And I don't know how much of that is the Bills defense or how much of that is Derrick Henry has just got some tread on the tires. So we're going to have to see. 13 carries for 25 yards and a touchdown is not a Derrick Henry line, though. So that's got to be a little bit concerning. Like Eve mentioned, the strength of his team looked to be those running backs, and it's not looking like it's just going to be that walk in the park anymore. And then looking at wide receivers, both of these teams have top flight guys. Diggs is looking like he could be the wide receiver 1 overall this year. That chemistry with Josh Allen is just off the charts. And it doesn't matter who's guarding him at this point. Like he's open all the time. Even when he doesn't get the ball, he could easily have 20 receptions a game. So I think sky's the limit with Diggs this year. Kupp's looking pretty much the same to me. Maybe I think it's more Stafford. Stafford's trying to figure his thing out because, Kupp's open. Kupp's doing his thing when he gets the ball, but they got to figure that out there. And then just looking at the flex, Gerald Everett in the flex didn't turn out too bad. You got to be happy with 6 receptions, 71 yards from Gerald Everett. Travis Kelce, 7.6. The double tight end flex. Starting 3 tight ends is an interesting strategy. Although when you have Travis Kelce and Kelce was in the tight end spot. Sorry, I didn't scroll down enough. So, anyways, tight end in the flex alone is an interesting strategy. But it didn't burn you. And then Saquon, not as good of a game from him, but at the same time, looking better, which I think is key for him. James Conner, we're going to have to find out for Kyle whether or not he plays this week. I'm sure his volume will be down, but you don't like to see him start to rack up injuries. That's always concerning. But yeah, overall, both of these guys it was a good matchup. I think it's probably a matchup we'll see again in the playoffs. Kyle's got to be feeling good at 2-0. And Eve, I'm sure Eve's not too concerned about it, just given that he does have some cupcakes coming up. And yeah, I think Eve will right the ship here pretty quick. All right, so let's jump over to week 3. We'll jump right into predictions. Where should I start? Let's start with a cupcake matchup. Speaking of Eve, so it's going to be Cup to Canada versus Four Putt. This one should not be a problem for Eve. I don't think you know. Travis has put up some good weeks. He's got some good players. He's got studs still. He's got some like big name players in his lineup, so you never know. Um, but Eve just looks way too dominant. I think this is the week, hopefully for Eve, that he just breaks out and busts 180 points or something crazy, just to feel better, no panic or anything like that. And for Travis, it's just hoping that some of those guys, especially as quarterbacks, figure it out. Aaron Rodgers going into Tampa, that can be a tough matchup. But Burrow going to the Jets, Jets are always a get right game. So I expect Joe Burrow to break out in a big way this week. Hopefully all of Cincinnati wakes up and gets going. It'll be interesting to watch Mahomes in Indianapolis. Indianapolis has looked to me like the worst team in the league. It's shocking. I don't know what's going on there. But the entire team looks washed. So I'll be watching to see if Mahomes can continue that trend. But yeah, I'm taking Eve in this matchup for sure. Let's go to another one that shouldn't be close. So Bills Mafia versus Full Jerry. I think John focus is just continuing the momentum. Hopefully Herbert is fine. Everyone stays healthy. For John, hopefully Trevor Lawrence can really step it up, get 20 points or more. Although he's going up against that Chargers D that does look really good. But this is a good week for John to deal with some of those challenging lineups. We'll have to see if Gabe Davis is back. I believe he will be. Bills need him against Miami. Miami looks good. And then, Amon-Ra St. Brown. I feel like he's my hater this year. Like I'm his hater this year, and I get burned on this every year. So let's see. Again, can he be consistent? He did it all last year with all the excuses. Oh, Hawkinson's out. Oh, Goff can't throw. Whatever. But he just continues to produce. So can he continue that upward trajectory? And then looking at my squad, I don't think it really matters. I already mentioned all the rookies. I'll probably just start rookies just so they're higher. I can see them easier. I don't know. Garrett Wilson, I hope that's the biggest thing. I want to see 2 weeks in a row of him breaking out. I'm hoping to see Bateman not just be a touchdown dependent kind of burner, and then Dotson consistency. We're in week 3, so Ken Walker, can he get on the field and actually get some touches? It doesn't matter. I'm running short on like tradable assets too. There's a few, but really this is like my team's kind of stagnant at this point. So just keep racking up those losses and let's see some rookies break out some more. All right, Full Jerry's gonna get the win, no question. So that'll lead into the next one I'll go into. So Brady's Third Dynasty versus Mr. Ambassador. So this is the reason why John pulling out that win last week was so important. As we know from last year, every win matters. And these early season losses can really hurt. So I think we have a completely different we do have a completely different landscape than if Sergey had been able to pull out that win last week and sit at 2-0. Because now Sergey is no longer facing me and John. Now he's kind of going into that juggernaut. So up against Brady's Third Dynasty, I think this is going to be a good matchup. The score projections right now, 146 to 127. I see Kirk Cousins bouncing back, even though Detroit looks good. I think I anticipate him outperforming Jared Goff. And then I anticipate some of Sergey's running backs stepping up a little bit more than they did last week. Joe Mixon should have a good game against the Jets. J.K. Dobbins, it sounds like he's full go. This could be a pivotal player for Sergey's team right now in the season. If Dobbins is healthy, if we're not dealing with a Cam Akers sort of situation, Dobbins is legit. And he was top 8 sort of running back before his injury. This could be gold for Sergey's lineup. Obviously Ryan. I don't need to go through his juggernaut of wide receivers again, but it does look like Jalen Waddle is starting this week. I obviously think that's a good decision against Buffalo. Buffalo is, if they have one weakness, although they've been playing out of their minds, their weakness would be their cornerbacks with Tre'Davious White out. So Tyreek Hill's obviously going to take a lot of that attention. So it'll be up to the Buffalo safeties to really hopefully keep the lid on Jalen Waddle this week. And then looking at Sergey, DK Metcalf, terrible situation for him. I think he's a stud. And, you just throw the ball up to him and he gets it every time. So kind of riding out those highs and lows with that. And then I expected AJ Dillon to take more of a role. I'm not. That's looking like a hot hand sort of situation, which is just sucks for fantasy purposes. So Sergey will have to manage that as well. I own both of their picks, so I get to just kind of be realistic here. I'm gonna go with Ryan. Ryan's gonna get the win this week. I originally put Sergey. Just I had a feeling, but breaking it down, I'm going to go with Ryan. I don't know. This would probably be my upset pick of the week, but I'm going to just keep it. I'm going to be a pussy. Whatever. Okay, who do I have left? I have. This is probably this is the matchup of the week. Trust the Process versus Moncton Meerkats. Two undefeated teams going at it. Both of these teams to me are clearly proving they're playoff teams. I think a lot of rating sites underestimated Tim's team coming into this year. There were a lot of, those second and third year guys that hadn't fully broken out yet, but they're here. And especially with some of the regression we've seen from some of the older guys in the league, Tim's legit and he's going to be tough to beat. The second quarterback thing is the big takeaway right here. And the reason why I think this one's probably going to be really close. Joe Flacco, having to start Joe Flacco as your QB2 really hurts. It says a lot, though, that this matchup is still close given Joe Flacco is starting. Kyle's got a lot of strengths in a lot of different areas. This is an absolutely pivotal matchup, I think, for our league. And I think it's more important for Kyle to get this win, just given that the injury impact that, a single or two injuries could have on his team. Every win is important for Kyle's path to the playoff at this point. And I mean, for Tim, it's, some of these guys, I'm not sure if he's starting Kyle Pitts, but if he does, can he finally wake up? If he can, sky's the limit even further for Tim's team. There's just not many weaknesses at all on these teams. Josh Jacobs, I don't love Brandon Cooks, but they're serviceable for sure. This is another one I'm going to actually switch in the moment. Kyle's just seems to have that it factor this year. Oh, well, plus I want the reverse commissioner curse. I'm picking Kyle for sure. I'm hoping Tim pulls this one out. But yeah, I'll take Kyle and hope that curse works this week, although it didn't work on him last week, so I'm not sure what's going on there. Okay, anyways, this video, it's not bad, 33 minutes. So yeah, that's it. So my picks for this week, I've got John, Ryan, Eve, and Kyle. Only one of those do I really need Commissioner Curse to come in. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, hope everyone has had a good week so far. Enjoys the game tonight. Who do we have tonight? We have Pittsburgh and Cleveland. I believe Cleveland's favorites. I don't see that. I know it's in Cleveland, but I'm going to go with the road dog. I'm going to take Pittsburgh, although Trubisky blows. So hopefully the Kenny Pickett era starts soon. That'd be nice to see for my team. If I could get Kenny Pickett looking good, I'd be thrilled. Anyways, go Bills. Have a good weekend, and thanks for watching. Bye, guys.